You know, what I was going to ask you was,
Mm-hmm.
as a grandmaster, if you meet an adult who
Vincent
just
tipped
isn't
$3.
very good at chess,
Hikaru
and
and
like
I need
you
some
show them a
help
few things and
contacting
they're not getting
once.
any better,
Mm-hmm.
do you question their general intelligence? Like, does somebody like you see any chess ability at all as a proxy to general intelligence?
Um, in general, I don't think that I view it that way. What I would say is that in order to be good at chess, you have to have a certain. Let me invite you to this board first. Is that you have to have a certain sort of knack for spatial recognition. Some like
Okay.
spatial recognition or just general pattern recognition in order to be good at chess. So if someone is not improving at chess, I wouldn't necessarily say that that means they're not smart, because there are a couple of people I know. For example, there's this professor I know at Princeton, and he's about like 1700. But he's been working on string theory for a very long time, but he's been stuck at this rating for probably the last like 10 years, I think, at least, and he hasn't been improving. But he's obviously a very smart guy outside of chess, so I don't tend to look at it from that standpoint of like, if you're not good at chess, you're stupid. That's just not how I view it. I think like critical thinking and spatial awareness and pattern recognition are important, but I don't think that's what makes you smart or not smart. So I don't tend to think like that.
That's good. So maybe if I implode during the tournament, it won't necessarily kill my political analysis career.
No, I think I'm trying not to say anything too off the cuff, but what I would say is that in terms of politics, I think it would be nice if there were more people who did play games like chess, who did use critical thinking, and they were logical in their approach to
Right.
politics, instead of sort of to just say anything you want to say and not have a deep understanding or reasoning behind what they're saying.
That makes sense to me.
And just like, this isn't really political per se, but one thing that I found very interesting is that if you go back in history, I believe the first like 5 or 6 U.S. presidents all played chess. George Washington played chess. Thomas Jefferson did. I think James Madison was an avid chess player, and even Benjamin Franklin. He played a lot of chess when he was in Paris as the ambassador for the U.S. To France. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've always thought that's kind of interesting when you look at it from the political standpoint.
Well, it seems like probably at the time, a cultured gentleman was expected to play chess, right? I mean, that's really
True.
changed now.
Mm-hmm.
If you say to me, "Hey, the governor of Florida is 2200," I would say there's no way that that's the case, just looking at the guy and hearing him talk. But he's not a cultured gentleman in the way that some of these old time politicians were.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that I could say about the governor of Florida, and I will try to refrain. But yeah, certainly I think in the old days it was considered one of those things that they looked at as being a game that really, it was sort of upper class per se. It's something that a lot of people who were smart, they played it when they or if they were cultured, they would play the game. So
Right.
it certainly used to be true. Nowadays, I think chess still has that, but it's not. I don't know. I think there are a lot of other things people can do as well.
I think that's a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah. But it's one of those games that a lot of people, a lot of very smart scientists, mathematicians used to play. And also, when you look at some of the really strong chess players going back like 30 to 40 years, they were able to excel in fields besides chess. So like, they're one of the world chess champions, Vasily Smyslov from Russia. He was also a professional musician on top of being the world champion in chess. And another world champion, Mikhail Botvinnik, also Russian, who was instrumental in sort of developing the Russian school and the Russian approach to chess. He also was a computer engineer, a computer scientist, and involved with some of the earliest computer chess programs.
What's your sense, not to get off track, because I know we have big training to do, but what's your sense of, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though somewhere between early to mid or sometimes late 30s, the top chess players start to decline.
Yes.
And I saw your video looking at, the top ranked chess players over time and, so on and so forth. You would think that it's not like basketball where, like, we understand why when you're 35, you're all of a sudden not going to be quite as good, right? It's sort of a different sort of thing. What is the limitation that starts to drag players down at 35 to 38? Is it that the long form games, you might be thinking about a move intensely for 90 minutes and that your stamina is what starts to get you?
Yeah, so basically the biggest difference is what technology has changed for the game. So if you go back, let's say pre 1995, because I would say 95 is when computers really started getting good to the point where we could learn from them. If you go back before then, due to the sort of lack of technology, a lot of players could play openings for their entire career. So imagine, for example, that you play, I believe you play the Vienna opening with white. If you go
to
back,
say I play it is a bit of a stretch, but let's go with it. Yeah.
So like if you play the Vienna opening and you just accumulate years and years of experience of playing it from when you were very young as a child, you could probably play that opening your entire career, because the lack of information, the lack of sort of knowledge that people had on the openings and the games that the players were playing meant that you could play openings for your whole career. And that experience, the accumulation of it, it would mean that you become better and better as you age. But nowadays what happens is that because of the technology, first of all, every game you play can be analyzed by your opponents, and secondarily, with the computers, someone can probably know whether your opening approach is good or bad within 5 minutes. If they just open the computer engines and they study the game, within 5 minutes they will know if what you played is good or bad. And so nowadays, as you're getting better and playing more and more, you have to keep coming up with new ideas, and you have to use more energy at the board, whereas before it was much more sort of you do your preparation, and the game is very interesting at the start, and someone makes a blunder early. Now people don't make blunders because of the influence of computers, and so the games get decided deeper and deeper, which in turn means you use more and more energy both away from the board and at the board in order to try and win and get better.
And so that's why in the mid to late 30s, the best players tend to start to decline.
Yes, because in the old days, I think the peak of chess players was probably in their mid 30s. Actually, it was probably mid 30s, and you could play until you were probably, I would say, around late 40s, maybe even up into the early 50s. A couple of the world champions were still very competitive till then. But nowadays, because the amount of effort, the work you have to put in before the game and then during the game, it's just the stamina. And you don't think of chess as being like physical, but you do have to be in pretty good shape, because when you think about the competitions, you're studying 5 hours a day, you play a game that's another 5 to 6 hours, and you do this for weeks on end. As you're getting older, it takes more and more energy.
Right. I saw this crazy interview with the notorious anti-Semite Bobby Fischer on the Dick Cavett show years ago. Mm-hmm. And far be it from me to defer to an anti-Semite on anything. But one of the things he seemed to say in his kind of haze of paranoia was that he seemed frustrated that chess became about just who has memorized further into a game. Like, first 5 moves, 10, 15, 20, 25. And that it basically just became a memorization contest. And that seemed to be part of what made him lose interest, as well as he seemed to want to focus more on researching conspiracies about Jews.
Yeah, so what I would say about Fischer is there are a couple things. First of all, he sort of foresaw what you have in modern day chess with a lot of the memorization techniques being used in the opening phase of the game. But what I would say is one of the things that's very beautiful about chess is that there are some tournaments that are going on right now featuring top chess players. And there was a game yesterday in one of these events where the world champion and another player who's in the top 10 played, and on actually it wasn't the world champion, but on like move 7 of the game, they had a new position that had never been seen before in the entire history of chess. And that was on move 7. So yes, there is a lot of memorization. They're just, that's what openings are these days, but still there is a lot of creativity and room for new ideas, especially because with the new program AlphaZero, the DeepMind Google project, you're seeing computers sort of play the game a little bit differently. And so we're trying to learn from some of the things that they're doing, some of the strategies they're employing, and trying to use that in our own games.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then just like in general, I would also say I had a conversation, I think this was shortly after Fischer died, if I remember correctly. I was at the Marshall Chess Club in New York City, and Dick Cavett, he was there at the time, and I spoke briefly with him on this topic, and he seemed to be under the impression that basically Fischer went insane because of the pressure of sort of the system playing against the Soviets. Mainly just like all the pressure, it just built up, and he kind of exploded, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's certainly seemed to be.
So yeah, I never had the chance to meet Fischer. Obviously, I wish I had, but it's hard to know what the realities are. But it's what it is, I guess. You know each other, some who don't, but like it's It's all good. I think it's just like everyone's trying to learn the game and have fun, and I think that's what counts. I know from like being on Twitch the last like 2 years, it's amazing to see all the different categories and what everyone is doing, and it's great to see so many people from different backgrounds. So it's not like, it's not like there's you, for example, and like Hassan and like all and Destiny and all the political guys. It's like it's this nice mix from like all these different games and categories.
Yeah, Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II would be an interesting player in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like your politics and the way you explain things is a little bit better, honestly. Like,
really? Oh my God,
him,
clip that. Jeez, holy shit. We've got to clip that.
Just saying.
That's shocking.
Just saying. Yeah, he is actually quite decent at chess, but I like your politics more.
Wow, I'm flattered. Oh my God, that's going to be in the new David Pakman show trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean left anyway, so I like what I see.
Hey, so one thing I wanted to ask you about, completely out of context, at some point I came across a video it was a video actually of a different game at a tournament, and you just happened to be sitting next to the game that was going on. And you're like giving this side eye to something that's going on and just looking over at some other player who I didn't recognize, like they had committed a crime of some kind. What was the story with that? I'm just not good enough at chess to know what happened that was so offensive.
So it's not even that it was offensive. So just so my chat knows, there's this tournament that I played in Gibraltar. I think it was last year. And the guy who was playing on the board next to me, he was formerly the #2 ranked player in the world. He's an extremely strong super grand master, and he was playing against a player who's a little bit weaker. Obviously, the guy's still another extremely strong grand master, but someone who most people would not say is in the same category as he is. And basically, the guy that I was sitting next to, the former world #2, he played an opening that was dubious. He basically made a sacrifice that was not sound. He sacrificed a knight, I think it was, when he shouldn't have, and so he was completely losing in the game. And the reason I gave that look is because having known the guy for so many years and having played against him in many events, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's one of the best players in the world. And so to see him playing like that is just one of those things where it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're such a great player, and I look over and he's just losing this game terribly.
And had you been watching the game the whole time as you were playing, or did you look and see the position and identify that it was wacky?
Yeah, so one thing that chess players do is when you play these long games of chess, you have long periods where your opponent's thinking, because you can think like 20 or 30 minutes on a move. And so periodically you're looking at the board next to you, or you get up and you look at the other board. So you're always sort of paying attention, because in the modern age with technology, you're looking to see what sort of opening strategies people are playing. And so I was watching the game on and off, and then at some point there was a period when I was thinking at my board for probably 20-25 minutes, and then I looked over again, and it's like the position had gone from something that I thought was interesting, just kind of normal, to something that was terribly losing for this guy I know. So
and is it considered crass or rude to be caught looking like that over at another board, or is it just sort of like no big deal in the chess community?
It's not really a big deal. I think perhaps it was a little bit more exaggerated than it should have been, but there are definitely times when top grandmasters, they look at games and they will definitely give some people these looks like, what are you doing? There's this Dutch grandmaster, for example, I know, who very frequently, when he sees somebody play an opening that he doesn't think is good, or he doesn't have respect for it, he will sort of give this stare. So it is pretty common to have some expressions and mannerisms when people do things that you aren't expecting.
I gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, that's a wild moment out of context. If you don't know what's going on, it's like something strange clearly is happening here.
Right. Yeah. It's basically like, as my chat said, it's really, bro, what are you doing? Like, you just don't expect it, because the top players are so consistent, and they generally play such great chess that it's just surprising when you see it happen. I was shocked.
I was shocked that you were so shocked. Let me put it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's like, to give some context, the guy who made the blunder, the former world #2, I've probably known him for, I would say, 20 years or thereabouts. So I've been very familiar. I've seen his games from the time he was a young junior player to becoming a professional, and an adult. So like when you have such respect, and you've seen so many games that the players have played over such a long career, they're just, sometimes you see these things and it's like, well, if they do this, why can't they do that against me? Or, well, like, what's going on?
My only other real question, chess related, was what is it? I've been watching a little bit of, is it Anish or Anish Giri?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something about his personality on these streams is extremely compelling. Like I find it strangely entertaining. And there's, I mean, it's not where you see him and you're like, he would be the most fun person to have a beer with. It's not that type of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like something about his demeanor is strangely compelling.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Anish is very charismatic. The sort of he's certainly one of the guys who has more charisma, I would say, in the chess world. He's one of the guys who can say things that are more sort of off the cuff. He can be very entertaining. And I think in the chess world, it's fairly rare to have people who are entertaining and can sort of like put context or give some perspective on a lot of different things. And just the way that he handles social media, for example, is not common either. Like he's very brash. He writes a lot of sort of what's the way of putting it? He writes a lot of sort of messages that generate like responses. It's very like sort of out there and in your face. So he's one of the people who's most fun to watch for sure in the chess world.
Obviously English isn't his first language, but like what are the rules about that at tournaments? Because I remember some controversy about it. I don't remember who it was, said Magnus said something in
Mm-hmm.
Norwegian, and then it was like, had that been true, are there rules where it's like the tournament says this is the default language, or is it just English?
I mean, pretty much everybody speaks English for the most part. Like not even as a first language, but I think people plenty of times have cursed in other languages, but generally everybody speaks English. So like if you talk to people, I would say it's probably like I would say 80% of people speak English, and then probably I don't know, probably like a large percentage. I want to say like maybe 70%. They'll either speak English or they'll speak Russian. Those are by far and away the two most popular languages.
But is it a written rule that it's English only at the chessboards or something like that?
Um, I mean, you're not supposed to. You're not really supposed to talk during the
Oh, at
games.
all? Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's just that. I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but generally, you aren't supposed to talk.
I didn't realize that. I guess that makes sense because it's like, what would you really talk about during the game?
Right, because you're trying to focus and beat your opponent.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, also in terms of that specific story though, the reason that it became an issue is because both players were very low on time. So when someone says something, it can be very distracting since you're not
Right.
supposed to talk. And since it was a blitz game between Magnus and a very young junior player from Iran, it was just one of those things that you're not really expecting. So when it happened, it kind of caused a little bit of controversy.
Have you, if you just want to pass on this, by all means, but have you taken a position on, remind me the name of the young Iranian player?
His name is Ali Reza Firouzja.
Right. Have you taken a position on his decision to essentially be French, play as a French player in order to not be bound by these Iranian rules about not playing with Israeli players?
Yeah, I think there are a couple things I will say. There are quite a few Iranians I know who have actually left the country. For many reasons. There are several female players that I've spoken to over the years who have left because of the issue with the hijab, and Ali Reza leaving as well because of the issue with trying to improve and play against Israeli players. So what I would say in general terms on the topic is that when you're young and you're trying to improve and play the game of chess, you really want the most opportunities to just get out there and play the game, play against everybody, play against the best competition. And when you have these rules that basically the Iranian government has instituted where you are not able to compete against Israelis, whether it's chess, whether it's martial arts, Olympic sports, and all these other different activities, it makes it very difficult because then, like in chess, where you don't have all the opportunities, you really need invitations to tournaments. Organizers are not necessarily going to invite players if they're playing for Iran because it causes controversy, and there are quite a few very strong Israeli players as well, and so it's just one of those situations which is very unfortunate. But in terms of Ali Reza, he's one of the most talented junior players that we've seen in a very long time, and for him to come out of a country like Iran, which they do try to support chess, but they don't have a really strong chess background or culture, to have players coming out of that country who are so strong, who are potentially going to compete for the world championship, it's, again, you want to have the most opportunities. So it's a shame that things like this happen, but again, I know quite a few people who have left the country, and I feel like I mean, I try not to be political, but I think certainly there's a bit of a brain drain going on there, and a lot of people have been forced to leave the country, and it's really a shame. It's a great tragedy.
It is. Yeah, it's quite a situation. Made
Like,
some headlines even in
yeah, I mean, like,
my
not
work.
not even to use that example, but there's someone else I know, and who I'm friends with, and I saw a post that they made, and it's someone she's female, and she made a post, and it was a joke, but she made the post that if she returned to Iran, basically her head would be on a platter, basically. And when you see those sorts of things, like, it really, I think, puts it into context just how serious these situations are, in countries like Iran. When you think about these stories, you hear these stories, but it doesn't really hit home until you actually hear about people who have sort of had to leave, and like if they ever were to return, I mean, they would be killed. And
Yep.
it's just, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think it puts it into context that despite all the stuff that's going on here right now, there are certainly are places where things are a lot worse.
No doubt. Yeah, that's the important context, I think. Well, listen, I so appreciate the time. I'm going to be working on all of these things very powerfully and continuing a strict training regimen. Do you recommend any physical exercise in particular? Like, for example, are push-ups better than pull-ups to prepare for chess or anything like that?
I don't think that shouldn't really play a role. I mean, I think, like, the main thing is, like, do you like, mentally, do you get tired quickly or not? First off,
I mean,
like,
I
if you
guess it
focus on
depends compared to who.
I mean, like, I guess if you were to focus on not even chess specifically, but something that's mental, for like a game, for example, for like an hour or two, would you get tired quickly or not?
Well, listen, video games, they bore me, so I just would never play them for 2 hours. But certainly, I mean, today, listen, I produced my entire 90-minute show, did a 2-hour stream, and then now we've been doing this close to 2 hours, and I don't feel like, oh my God, I got to go to bed or anything like that.
Yeah, then I think I wouldn't even worry. If you have energy, then it shouldn't play a role, because you're not going to be playing for more than probably an hour. Your match will be 2 games, so it won't be more than 1 hour when you're playing your match. So it shouldn't really matter.
Got it. Okay. I mean, listen, if you can sit through people saying maybe inject a bleach into your body and not have to immediately abort, maybe a 10-minute chess game is something I could do,
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a crazy world out there, but I like what you do, and it's great that you're competing in this event. And just, I hope you have fun, and I'm sure I can help you during the event as well once it gets going, because people will probably be wanting lessons as well. So if you want to do this again, just let me know.
Oh, I'm available. Yeah, no, thanks to you, and all the coaches have been great, and I hope your viewers did not find themselves totally disgusted with my presence on your stream today.
No, I think everybody enjoyed it. So it was a lot of fun, and we should do it again.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Great. No problem. Talk to you soon. All right.
See ya.
Bye.